Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name's Melina. Today we're going to be doing our February wrap. This month has gone so quickly. I honestly can't believe that we're in March already. Like, where has the month gone? I actually read so many books, mainly because I was on vacation for a week, and you know what happens when you go on vacation, you read a lot because you have a lot of spare time. So if you guys saw my TBR, my best friend Amanda chose my TBR for me, and my TBR went as followed. Sorry, let me go my notebook. So we had Murder on the Orient Express, The Do-Over, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, How She Died, How I Lived, Cop When I Land, Tomorrow ×3, and The Secret History, or A Secret History by Donna Tartt. I did okay. I've started or completed all of them except for Tomorrow ×3. I didn't end up finishing A Secret History, and I'm about 100 pages from finishing Little Fires Everywhere. I'm really enjoying this. It's just, you know, when it comes to real literary fiction, it takes a little bit longer for me to read it, especially when it's a little bit more academically written, as is this one by Celeste Young and the Donna Tartt book, which I got about 130 pages into, so I still have a lot of that book to go through. I think it's about 20% through. Now, while I was on vacation though, I did add a whole bunch of books to my TBR, and so I'm excited to talk about everything that I'm reading. Let's start by stating what I'm currently reading. As I mentioned before, I'm reading Little Fires Everywhere, I'm reading A Secret History, and I'm also listening to The Crash by Frida McFadden. That is currently my book club book for, technically it's February's book for my book club, so I have my meeting on my first Monday of March, and I will finish it in time, about 40% through now on that one. So now, these are the books I did end up finishing. Oh wait, actually, so I talked about what I'm currently reading. I want to rate the books that I finished in January, like in between that little spurt of like when I uploaded my wrap up for January and February. So I did read The Pairing by Casey McQuiston, and I loved it. It's a lot spicier than I expected. It's really different from all of their books. I think I mentioned this in my January wrap up, but I feel like all of their books are centered upon really different things and give really different vibes. So for me, I've read 3 of their books. Well, The Pairing would be the 3rd. I read Red, White, and Royal Blue, which for me gives me Hallmark vibes, like a Hallmarky rom-com. And then I read One Last Stop, which is a sci-fi paranormal like romance. And then finally we have The Pairing, which is a spicy, foodie, and like food and wine type of thing, also involving like travel. So it involved 2 characters who used to date, and they broke up right before this massive European country trip, or cross-continental, because it was like all over Europe, and they broke up right beforehand, and they had a certain amount of time to take like the voucher for the original trip, and they both happened to take it literally the final tour before it expired. And it's just seeing them kind of rekindle their romance. So you kind of go from 2 points of view. It goes from like the past, and then from one perspective, and then it goes into the present. And then midway through the book, or maybe a little over midway through, it kind of actually switches the POVs. So it goes from Theo's POV to the other character, which right now I'm hitting a blank. I really enjoyed this book. It was really different, like I said, from everything else that they've written, but I will also say that this book was very, very spicy. It was, or actually, I don't know if it's necessarily very spicy, but it's very sex forward. And so if you're not comfortable with like sex being mentioned, not every other page, but at least every chapter, then you won't enjoy this one. I also feel like the rekindling of their like relationship, a lot of it felt like it was very centered upon the sexual like chemistry that they have versus the emotional connection, which technically they had an emotional connection because they were best friends all their lives, and then they were in a relationship and then they broke up. But I kind of wish that we saw more of that on the page, and we got a little less of that compared to their other books, and so that was my one gripe about it. I think I still like One Last Stop as my favorite Casey McQuiston book, but this one comes as a close second, and I ended up rating it 4 stars. So I don't have a physical one of that. Oh no, I do, but I packed it away. I'm moving, and so I only left the books that I read throughout the month and what I'm gonna read next month not in boxes. So I'm sorry to disappoint. Then I also read The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I have read this would be the 3rd book I read by him. I've read Middle of the Night, and I've read The Only One Left. I really enjoyed The Only One Left. I didn't really enjoy The Middle of the Night. And The House Across the Lake, I think I like it the least out of all three of them that I've read. I feel like all of his books have these things. I don't know if you know anything about Riley Sager. He does this thing where it's kind of like a, is it paranormal? Is it real? Is it not? Is it? All of his books have that, and you're not sure throughout the whole book whether it is or isn't. And obviously I'm not going to tell you like how the book ends, but I also felt like it was very like out of nowhere, random, and they kept adding like random plot twists that I just didn't really care for. And I also felt that the book dragged on for a really long time. One thing I will say about this book is that it gives a lot of character like development and character background information, which I find in thrillers they don't typically do, but in this one you get a lot of that. So I guess if you want a slower paced thriller where you're a little more invested in each of the characters, maybe you would enjoy this one, but for me it was not for me. I ended up rating it a 2.75 stars. So then at the beginning of the month I started, I don't know if these are in order actually, they're not, I don't know how I wrote these down. So I went on vacation and I finished, like I said, The Pairing, and then I went straight into, I decided I wanted like a light fluffy romance, and I found out that Abby Jimenez came out with a short story that I believe was free if you have Amazon Prime, and it's called The Fall Risk. It was probably about 100 pages or less. I got through it maybe in about an hour and a half and I loved it. She has the ability to make you fall in love with these characters and kind of make it feel like it's a slow burn, but like it's 100 pages is not really, it's impossible for it to be a true slow burn. I could have read a fully fledged novel about these characters and literally dragged this out a little bit longer, but I loved it. I love the characters, I love the background characters. It was a perfect romance to deal with in the fall. I meant to deal with during Valentine's Day, and I rated it a 4.25 stars. I am so looking forward to her full-fledged release that comes out I think in April. Don't quote me on that one though. So then after The Fall Risk, I decided to read, and now I have physical books for these. I read The Do-Over. Okay, so this is one of the books that my friend Amanda gave to me on my TBR. This was her pity pick for me. I ended up reading this on my Kindle because I was on vacation and I didn't really want to carry that many books with me. I only brought Tomorrow Times 3 and A Secret History, which I did end up reading 150 pages literally in between The Pairing and The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. So technically I did read some. I just ended up not picking it up during vacation because I also felt like in this, I went to the Dominican Republic, so in that tropical climate I just wasn't really feeling the dark academia vibes, so I didn't continue on with it. But anyways, I read The Do-Over, and I only read one of her adult romances and I didn't love it. I think it was called Accidentally Amy, and she did re-release it, so I think it's supposed to be updated and it might be different compared to when I first read it, but I did not like it at all. So I was really hesitant to read Better Than the Movies, and then I ended up loving it. So I will say her YA romances are actually so much fun. They give me 2010 rom-coms. Like the way that the characters act, the way that the boys are, like you're here kicking your feet and enjoying it, and it's definitely a little cheesy and it's Hallmarky, but I think that's the point. Like it's meant to be a fun read, and I love this. Of course it deals with slightly heavier like high school topics, but even then I got through this so quickly and I ate it up. It definitely has a Groundhog's Day type of thing. It's about a girl who wants to have a perfect Valentine's Day with her then boyfriend and finds herself living the same day over and over and over again. It is Valentine's Day, and throughout this there is one constant, and it is Nick. And so she keeps her falling into Nick, and Nick is the one constant in all of these do-overs, and she gets to know him through these do-overs, which is really fun because like he doesn't remember, but we get to know him and she obviously remembers it, and you get to find out how she gets out of the do-overs and you know, so on and so forth, what happens to her story. I rated this 5 stars. I think it's on par with Better Than the Movies, and if I didn't rate it a 5 stars, I would rate it a 4.75. It's like I said, if you like Better Than the Movies, you would really enjoy this. It was so fun. I loved it, and I can't wait to read Betting on You because it is her final YA that's been released. After The Do-Over, I decided I was ready for something a little more substantial, and so I read Before the Coffee Gets Cold. Before the Coffee Gets Cold is a magical realism book that follows a magical coffee shop, and you are able to drink a coffee and visit somewhere in the past. The rule is you have to finish your coffee before the coffee gets cold, and that's how long you can stay there for. So it's really fun. It follows a few characters and their experiences with going into the past, and also their experiences with characters in the coffee shop, the employees, and it's really, really, really fun to actually get to know these characters. I can't wait to go back into this world. It's such a cozy read, and I'm not saying it's lighthearted. It's actually really sad, some of these stories, but some of them are really uplifting, and also they just have so many cool things for you to feel grateful for and just really look into it. I don't know. I loved it. It was so short, and it's kind of crazy that this was translated in a way that just, for me, it made sense. And yeah, I think there's 4 of these right now, so I probably will purchase the second one very soon. I gave this one a 5 stars. So we're up to 2 5 stars, which is very exciting. I was not expecting to have such a great February reading month. Like, I know when I go on vacation, I get to read more books, but usually I read really cheesy like rom-coms that are like 3-star romances. And so for me to have 2 5 stars, and it was only the beginning of the month, was very exciting. Not only that, then I also read The Pairing, which I really enjoyed. Like 4 stars for me, still an excellent, super fun read. After, Before the Coffee Gets Cold, then I read my first romance, like cheesy romance. So I was thinking about Sarah Caroli, and she constantly does a reread of the book Ghosted. She does it every year, I think she said, and she's rated it like 5 stars so many times. So I was like, okay, well, a 5-star romance is exciting, because even if I don't rate it 5 stars, that must mean it's good. It must mean it's good. So I read Ghosted. I don't know who it's by, but I'll put the book cover right here. I didn't really know what it was about. I knew it was a celebrity romance, and I also knew it was a second chance romance, and that's kind of it. So I didn't expect this to be a second chance romance that pertains to addiction, and I also didn't expect it to be kind of like a childhood lovers to adult romance. But I will say this, it was a long book, but honestly, this book is kind of what I wanted The Final Offer by Lauren Asher to be. Lauren Asher's book was so long, but I felt like it was drawn out, and while some instances were really realistic and I enjoyed it, I also felt like the growth didn't come as steadily as I would have liked. I feel like it was kind of like he was fucking up and then randomly he just stopped. In Ghosted, I felt like it was a little bit more, I don't know, it made more sense to me. Maybe it's also because we got a lot more, it's dual timelines, so you get past chapters and present chapters, and in the past chapters you could tell like he fucked up over and over and over again, and it wasn't like they told you he fucked up, they showed you in words like what happened, what went down, why did their relationship not work out, and it just felt very realistic. I also enjoyed seeing him struggle and go through AA and like earning the chips and feeling tempted time and time again. I just feel like it was a very realistic perspective on addiction, and especially alcohol addiction, and so I really enjoyed this. There were things that I didn't really like about it. I felt it was a little cheesy at times. It felt like it gave me 2015 romances. I don't know if that makes any sense, but there was a time period where certain tropes were just used over and over again, and if you were a reader at that time and you read this book, I think you'll get what I mean. Not that it was a bad book, it's well written and it's really fun and enjoyable, and like I said, I enjoyed the way the story was told, but there were certain things something just did not hit that made it not a 5-star or above. I ended up rating this book a 3.75, so it was just before 4 stars, but other than that, I enjoyed it, and I'm glad that I read it because I feel like I've been wanting to read it for so long, and vacation was the perfect time to do so. Then I read my second romance, and I read Hooked by, I think her name is Emily McGuire, Emily something. I read this because my Instagram friend Haley read the 4th one recently, and she said it was so good, and she's like, but you have to read the rest of them. Now, I'm warning you now, they're not great, but they get better. So I went into this with an open mind, and I also went into it knowing I was not going to be in love with this. Now, this book is an insta love, it is an insta lust. It's kind of one of those weird moments where they're like, oh, the guy can't control me, but in reality, when I'm reading it, I'm like, but he is controlling every single little thing you do, and if he said don't do it, you're not doing it. So it's a very weird feeling because like her reality is not the reality that I'm reading while I'm reading it. Anyways, these stories, at least this series, is supposed to be a like Disney villains retelling from what I know, and so this one is supposed to loosely follow Captain Hook and Wendy. So the main characters' names are Wendy and James Hook, and he is in the mafia, and it's like the whole thing like lust at first sight. They see each other and they're like instantly attracted. Now her father, whose name is Peter, is like an airline company, and it's like called Neverland something, which is like, you know, they're all like, they have like lots of little hints towards the Peter Pan fairy tale. Now there's things I really hated about it, but once I kind of got over it, I actually enjoyed it as like a trashy romance, if that makes any sense. The writing was okay, it wasn't terrible, it was short, I got through it very quickly, and it was addicting. It was literally like, if you like reality TV and you like trash television and you like spicy books, I mean it wasn't super spicy, but like there is spice in there, then this book is for you. I ended up rating it a 3 stars, which is fine because that's what it is, you know, like it's an enjoyable trashy read. Am I going to continue the series? Yes. Do I recommend this book to everyone? No. But like I said, if you like reality TV, if you want a fast read, if you like a spicy romance, that's dark romance, has some insta love, but like a little bit of like emotional connection, then you'll like this one. But if not, skip this and just, you never heard it from me. You know, like, I did not like this book, but read it if you like trash TV like me. So then I had to go through some arcs. I've gotten a few of them and I've been falling a little bit behind because I was on vacation. So on my flight back home, I read, what is it called? Dream Girl Drama by Tessa Bailey. Now, I've had a love-hate relationship with Tessa Bailey for many, many years now. I read her first two books. I think I mentioned this somewhere. I feel like I'm repeating myself. By the Ballinger sisters, and I liked them. They were fun and enjoyable, and even the spicy scenes were very cringy. I enjoyed the characters. Since then, I had not found a book by her that I really enjoyed, and so I got an arc for Dream Girl Drama, which is supposed to be like a hockey romance, which I didn't realize there was actually a first book in the series that follows like his teammate, but that's fine. Like, it didn't take away from the story at all. What I didn't like about it was that it was very insta love, and I hate insta love. Like, literally they see each other at a country club and they're like, I love this person so much and I'm gonna run away with this person. And it's, I mean, he's willing to do everything for her, and it's very much, I don't know, the writing is subpar, the plot was cute, it was kind of funny, it was kind of cute, but overall it was okay. I think Tessa Bailey is just genuinely not for me, and I don't think I'm gonna give her a try anymore. I think this is my final book from her. Unless someone can convince me otherwise in the future, I don't think I'm going to be a Tessa Bailey reader, which is fine. I rated it a 3.25. The writing is fine. It was enjoyable. I think some people are gonna like it, but because it's insta love, I was never going to like it. And I didn't realize it was being advertised as an insta love until I was like seeing all the promo for it, but it was too late. I had already requested it and I got the arc, so I read it, and that's that. 3.25 for me though. So then from here, I read another book Amanda recommended to me, which is How She Died, How I Lived. This is a YA book about I think I've talked about this in I did reading vlog during this month. This is about a guy who texts a whole bunch of girls, I think 6 of them. One of them answers, he ends up murdering her. And from there, this kind of the story follows one of the characters who could have potentially been one of his victims. She's in high school, and it talks about, like, you know, victims' grief or survivor's guilt, and just the PTSD from her friends, other people who were victims, leading up to the trial, so on and so forth. I liked it. There was things I really liked about this. There was things I did not really like about this. I think I'm not the target market for this. I think I probably would have enjoyed this better if I was in high school, and I think that's really what it is. There's some YA that an adult could read and love it, and there's some YA that's just genuinely supposed to be YA. And I think this is one of those books. I think this is YA for the high school student, you know? And that's fine. I ended up rating this a 3.5 stars, and I probably will be donating this at some point before I move. Or maybe I'll take it with me and then move and, you know, do a big unhaul. We'll see what we do, but 3.5 stars. Then I read Clap When You Land, which is another book that my friend Amanda recommended or wanted me to read. This is a poetry style. Like, if you read, let's show you. If you read the text, it's literally in these little lines. I didn't realize that was the format because I had never opened this book before having to read it for my TBR. And it is about 2 girls, and their father ends up dying in a plane crash. Little do they know that they have a magical secret sibling in a different country. One of them lives in the Dominican Republic, the other one lives in the United States, and it's kind of just coming to terms with who they thought their father was, coming to the realization that they had family, and where does it go from there. There were some things I really liked about this and some things I really didn't like about this. So I like the fact that this follows Dominican culture. I like that this was loosely based off of a real plane accident that was really going to the Dominican Republic. I enjoyed reading about the experiences of both siblings and kind of how they were raised so differently because of their environment and, you know, the background, the friends, the family, people who supported them throughout their lives. I didn't like the poetry style. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more had it not been poetry style. I did listen to some of this on audio. I think the audio was not that great, honestly. I don't think that I'm the target market for this, mainly because I don't like poetry, and the way that it's written, I would have read it in like a more standard, like, fiction novel-esque format. But it's not a bad book, and it's really informative, and it's really interesting, and it won a lot of awards, so that's pretty cool. I ended up rating this one a 3.5 stars. So again, this one was not for me, but not because it's not a bad book. It's just, again, the poetry just took me really out of the plot, and, you know, it happens sometimes. Yeah. So, ooh, what's in the back? Oh, it's cute. It has like cute, like, tropical trees. And the back has the cute, like, cityscape. Very nice. It's actually a really beautiful cover. Yeah, it's really nice. Okay. Finally, we're gonna end this wrap up with One Dark Window. One Dark Window follows a kingdom that was cursed by a goddess in the woods. And this goddess basically made it so where children get infected with this fever-like disease. And from there you end up, those people who are infected end up with magical powers. So the king starts to execute all of these people who end up getting the disease. Our main character, Elsbeth, somehow escapes, or not escapes, her father ends up like hiding her and sending her to her aunts. And from there, when the practitioners, who are the doctors that work for the king to act, like the practitioners are the people who are sent by the king to execute anyone who has been infected. She goes into hiding and somehow survives. Now the way she survives is her magical power is that when she touches, they have these magical cards in these worlds. So anyone who is not infected, the way they use magic is they have special cards, like a cards of a deck, and each card has this magical ability. Now with her infection, it allowed her the ability to absorb magic, the magic of the card. So she absorbs the magic of one of the cards as a child, and somehow it saves her life and she escapes, you know, from being executed. Now flash forward to her being an adult. I think she's about 20 years old, and she gets sent on this mission to save the kingdom from the fog, from the goddess of the woods. And obviously things aren't as easy. Ooh, this lighting is not so good anymore. I'm so sorry. So she gets sent on this quest, and obviously things are not as easy as they seem to be. So there's deceptions, there's romance, there is high stakes. It is so good. It is so exciting. My one gripe with this book is the fact that the author, Rachel Gillig, likes to say certain phrases often. I don't know if I could find it, but she likes to say, there were certain things where I'm like, bro, you don't need to say it so many times. It was like the invisible string lifted his mouth up into an invisible smile or something, or a visible smirk or something like that. It was unnecessary. I don't remember. I can't find it right now. But anyways, I loved it. It is a duology, so next month I will be reading the second book in this duology, and I rated this 5 stars. Highly, highly, highly recommend this. There is romance, so this is definitely a romantasy, but it's not a spicy romantasy. It's kind of like a Fade to Black romance. I wouldn't compare, I don't know. It's in a world of its own. It's not ACOTAR, it's not Throne of Glass, but it is so good. I think honestly, maybe I would compare this to kind of like Six of Crows-esque. Not because the world's the same or anything, but the way that it's written, it's not overly complicated, because at the end of the day it's YA. I think that's why. I would compare this to Six of Crows because it's YA, not for any other reason. But the vibes, if you like Six of Crows, you'll like this. It's not dual POV, it's singular POV, but I still think you'll enjoy this. And the end, what a cliffhanger. I cannot wait to start this. I'm going to finish Little Fires Everywhere in the Crash and probably jump into the second one immediately. It's so, so, so good. 5 stars. Next up, we have Murders on the Orient Express. I did a mix of listening to this and reading it hardback. I got this beautiful cover on it in London on the Bow bookstore. Like if you look it up, you could find it. It's like literally a bow, and you can go on and there's a whole bunch of books. I enjoyed this. I feel like it's pretty cool to see where a lot of books were influenced by this one. I think I will continue to read some more of her books in the future. I do think it was a little confusing at times because they used a lot of people's last names, and it was kind of hard to remember like who was being mentioned when. Like it was not the most obvious for me to figure out. I mean, it was a little hard for me to remember who was who, but the plot twists were fun. I didn't really expect it, and even though it wasn't my favorite thriller, I enjoyed it a lot. 4 stars for me. Now, I ended up reading a lot more than I expected. I think, let's see how much we read in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Technically, we talked about 12 books today. I read 10 of those in February because I finished The Pairing technically in February, but it's okay, 11, because I finished A House Across the Lake in January, but I didn't talk about it in my last video because I had not finished it in time for the wrap up. So I read 11 books, and hopefully it will be actually 12 because I am expecting to finish Little Fires Everywhere today. I only have 100 pages left, but it's so, so, so good. I'm expecting this to be a hype, like, rating book, and I can't wait to watch the TV show. I think it's a limited series, and it's Kerry Washington and what's her name, Reese Witherspoon, and I love them both in like recent things. I mean, that's not true. Kerry Washington I loved in Scandal, and then Reese Witherspoon I liked her in, what is it, Big Little Lies, and I feel like this gives Big Little Lies vibes, kind of, sort of, no murder, but like just white rich women drama. Like that's what this gives me. But yeah, so that was my December wrap up. I will be, oh my god, December wrap up, my February wrap up, and I will be back next week with my March TBR. Man, what month are we on? I'm just so lost obviously today. Yeah, I'll be doing my March TBR next week, and I have a fun surprise for my April TBR. I created a TBR jar. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Maybe I shouldn't be telling you this, but it took me so long to write the names of every single book I own, so I got a little excited, and I can't wait to share it with you. And maybe I'll be in the new space by then, but that's April's problem, and we still have March ahead of us. So I'll see you guys next week. Bye.